What's going on, people? Welcome to the Offside Chat podcast. As you know, this is our midweek chat where we just discuss the week's football, really. As you know, every Saturday between 10 and 12, we are live on the Beat London 103.6 FM. I've usually got Colleen and Ed on here giving their predictions, but now we're actually going to discuss what's happened on the weekend and the games coming up. We have to, let's welcome Ed, man. Happy birthday, bro. It is your birthday.
Thank you, guys.
How
24.
old are you now?
Ooh.
How old are you now?
Can't tell
How old
people.
are you? You can't tell the people.
Confidential.
But happy birthday, though, man. Even coming on the pod today, man. That's dedication for real,
Of
man.
course. Thank you for having me, guys. Thank you for
We
the
make his
birthday
day. We're the gift for his birthday. Of course he's jumping on.
This is how we end it, innit, for him, man. This is how we end it. Colleen, welcome to, well, it's not your debut on the Offside Chat. You've been here from the beginning. We love your opinions and stuff. So, but welcome to the podcast. So we've got you with the lighting, and is everything all right for you? Because obviously we'll let the people know at home, you know what I mean? There's a little bit diva-ish behavior going on yeah, before we get on. But is everything okay for you, Mariah?
Wow. I love that introduction, considering
Mariah.
it's not the reason we're late, to be fair. Like, this is pre-recorded, so you guys are watching this all lovely, all nice in your own time. I've been ready. All I said was give me 5 minutes so I can see my lighting. That's it. But
all right, Mariah.
You know,
right,
it's
Mariah.
fine. Listen, Mariah Carey's my idol, so it's fine. Absolutely fine.
Exactly,
fine.
Mariah. What can we do? But listen, let's just get into it straight away. Tottenham Hotspur, we've just found out, have sacked Stellini. Obviously, Tottenham losing yesterday to Newcastle United, 6-1. Guys, Colleen, let's just start here, because the thing is, which is so frustrating. I know right now Spurs fans are feeling very low right now, and I can understand. They've sacked Conte. They brought in his number 2 to replace him, which was quite strange anyway. And now he has been sacked after this latest defeat. And now they've got Ryan Mason, who was the number 2's number 2, who is going to take over to the end of the season. Can you make any sense on what's going on here at Tottenham at the moment?
No, I have several assumptions, and and the more I make, the more ridiculous it sounds. That the fact that Stellini even came in after Conte, like, it's the whole. It's never just the manager's coaching staff are normally, they follow him wherever they go, unless you get certain cases like your Arteta, for example, like Jose, even once upon a time back at Barca and things like that. But generally, they tend to stick to the same crew. And the manager's philosophy is the whole group's philosophy. The manager's essentially the front face of it all. Keeping him was ridiculous. It's ridiculous because it's the same regime. There's not a change. Like, do you think Conte's number 2 is gonna be like, do you know what, actually, guys, it was really bad under him, and I didn't want to follow along with what he was saying? No, they're co-conspirators. It's their plan. And then you've got Ryan Mason, who was here back when Jose was sacked as well. This is not, he's just been knocking about being a coach and just fitting into each coach's team. It feels like Tottenham do not want to let him go, because I refuse to believe Jose, Nuno, Conte all were like, do you know what? Let's bring Ryan Mason into our backroom staff. Like, I refuse to believe it. So it's like systemic issues there all around the club. But if we just focus on the head coach managerial situation, it's just all ridiculous. But okay, say after the 6-1 defeat, you can understand why he's sacked. And maybe Tottenham want to take their time. There's 6 games left for them. So like, probably thinking, oh, do you know what? Pop in Ryan Mason. But it's because it's not an isolated incident, and there's a lot of dominoes that go back many years. It makes it feel so much harder. And you got to feel for Tottenham fans, because that was a disgrace. 5-0 down after 21 minutes. It's a disgrace. Absolute disgrace.
It was a disgrace. And Colleen, you raised some good points.
As always.
What as always, that's why you're on here. But what I'm perplexed by this is, I remember a Spurs fan telling me that, Daniel Levy has been making very, very, very strange decisions for a while. So, for example, let's just rewind back when they were in their Carabao Cup final with Manchester City, and then they sacked Mourinho just before that. And I thought, that is a bit weird. But this one, you bring in Conte, you kind of give him kind of what he wants. Obviously, he wants more. We all know that. He's that sort of manager and character. But you sack him or he leaves, and you're right. You leave his number two. So this was his general, really. In training, has the same philosophy as him. I actually questioned that at that time. I thought, was that a little bit snaky? Because why would, if the only reason Stellini is at Spurs is because of Conte? So that's like Ed getting a job at Spurs, and obviously he bought me as number two. Now Ed gets, I was about to say gets the job, but Ed, let me just not pause or make any pause moments here. But Ed loses his job, and then I'm still there. Now, what sort of conversation was I having with Ed to say, oh, can I stay on so I can? I don't know if it's a thing of if I'm going to get more money, or it was just a very strange.
It stinks of a lack of authority from Daniel Levy. And I'm saying, actually, I'm going to call him Daniel because his statement was from Daniel. That's the precise reason why he didn't keep Jose on for the final, because he knew, and maybe he probably will deny this, and maybe, you don't want to say this, but I reckon he doesn't have the balls. He doesn't have that fire within him, because this is what would have happened. Jose would have won the Carabao Cup. He still wants Jose gone, but he's not going to be able to do what Man United did when Louis van Gaal won the FA Cup and sack him.
The next day,
they still said, thank you very much, go. Daniel Levy, do you think Daniel Levy can say that to Jose Mourinho, who's bringing them their best success for the last 15, 20 years? No. So then if Stellini says to Conte, listen, maybe it could have been sour, maybe not, we don't know. But saying the best case scenario, if we take the idea of Daniel Levy just not having proper authority to these managers and coaches, he could just say to Conte, listen, you're probably not going to go into another job until next season. Let me just see if I can try my hand at it. It's just Tottenham. If it doesn't work out, I can just come back to your coaching staff. I'm not saying that's the exact scenario, but if we're going with the conspiracy theory of Daniel Levy not having any balls, not having the proper authority to talk to coaches and managers who've been in the game for decades and have won things, Daniel Levy can't talk to them. He can't even talk to Stellini. So that's one of my conspiracy theories, because he has to be against the club at this point, because I don't know.
And fair enough with that, because as I said, it's just very strange to keep him on. What doesn't look good though is, and Ed, you can jump in on this, because I definitely want to hear what you've got to say. What doesn't look good is, they've been linked with, various managers. Obviously, Nagelsmann is the one they've been linked with now. He's pulled away from the Chelsea job. Looks like Poch is on his way to Chelsea, if all reports are correct. But when you're looking at the club, Spurs, as a manager, and you want to look for a project, and you've had Antonio Conte, top manager, some people call him elite manager, who is being sacked. They've kept his number two, made him into a manager. You've now sacked him weeks later. And now Ryan Mason is, if you're a top coach and you're looking at Spurs, does it look like that's a club with a plan?
No, it doesn't look like it's a club with a plan. But that's the way things are at Tottenham, man. They look like a rudderless ship. And we keep on talking about this, and we said this on the show before, that they don't prioritize making football decisions. They don't prioritize winning as well. So that's why they're in this mess. Because to me, they're more focused on bringing outside revenue into the club as opposed to winning trophies, winning football matches, and bringing success that way. So I'm not surprised this happened. I was shocked that they sacked him, because like you said, you sacked Conte, you kept Stellini on. There's 6 games left to play for. They're still in the Champions League race. Why sack him now? And then you let Ryan Mason take over. It just doesn't look like they know what they're doing over there. And as much as you want to feel sorry for a Spurs fan, I can't, because obviously I'm Arsenal man, so I'm not ever going to feel sorry for a Spurs fan. But it does stink. It does smell. It just doesn't look like there's any direction, like I said. And yeah, it's just a mess. And it's quite sad, because you think with all that Spurs have been doing for the past 10 years, finishing in top 4 regularly, that this is their chance to maybe try and push on and try and win trophies. But they look like they're going to regress. And dare I say, if Harry Kane leaves, how do you replace him? Because he's a once-in-a-lifetime player for them. Once-in-a-lifetime player for any club, actually, let alone Spurs. But if he leaves, they're not going to replace him. They're going to botch everything they do after he leaves. So I think this is a real seminal moment for Spurs.
I think you make a fabulous point, because Daniel Levy said, I don't know if anyone heard his interview just a couple of days ago. He said, it pains me that there's that club in North London up the road who are top, but we've had some fabulous moments in the last 15 years since we last won a trophy. The reason why I'm picking that out is because he's talking about fabulous moments. So he's probably talking about we reached a Champions League final.
Yep.
Any other top 6 club, and we can talk and attest to this, who goes to a Champions League final and doesn't win it, we do not call that a fabulous moment. And do you know what? That was a good point for us. And I think that just sums Spurs up. He was like, you know what? Of course I won trophies, but we've had some fabulous moments. For me, when we reached the Champions League final as an Arsenal fan and didn't win it, it's one of the worst moments of my life. I don't care about the journey there. I don't care because we didn't win it, because we prioritize trophies.
Yeah.
Daniel,
Colinho,
it's not.
You are, yes, yeah. I mean, you look at if you ask an Arsenal fan what's the worst night, and it probably would be, probably would be that one, and probably the FA Cup semi-final in '99, losing, with that Ryan Giggs. But you're right, it's not going to be it's not a great memory, even though it was a really, really good campaign in 2006 to get to that final. If you look at the games and the teams we beat, it was fantastic, beating Real Madrid on the way, Juventus. But it's true, you're right, if you do. But what I want to ask now as well is, in regards to Stellini going, I just can't imagine that the sacking of managers is non-stop. And when does it come down to the players? Because again, we can say it's Daniel Levy. I do think that he doesn't make it easy for himself, but he is an easy target. You've had some world-class coaches. You had, I'm not saying Nuno was a world-class, but he did a stellar job at Wolves. Very good coach, Premier League coach. You've got Mourinho, one of the greatest coaches of all time. You've got, Conte, which is coming and has won everywhere he's gone. So although we can say the setup of Spurs not giving them enough money for transfers or not, they've still got top-class players. They've got unbelievable goal scorer in Harry Kane. You've always got a chance with him. A lot of Spurs fans were saying that Son is world-class. You can go for the team. They've got World Cup winners. When is it going to really come down to the players? Because these guys, you can have the argument that it's Daniel Levy, but also the players are getting managers sacked like it's nobody's bit. Like they have to take some responsibility. Harry Kane is probably going to say, "Naber, don't talk to me because I'm breaking records here." So put him to the side, but the rest of them surely have to take responsibility for this, Ed.
They do, but you also have to look at how long have those players been there. A lot of them should have been moved on ages ago. Like, I was watching another show, and there's a Spurs fan on there, and he was explaining that there's a lot of players that are not fit for purpose there. So you're right, they have got players, managers sacked, but they should have been gone ages ago. And I think that's what's killed Spurs a little bit, is that if you look at the job that Arsenal have done, when Arteta first took over in December 2019 to now, look at how different that squad is. There are still players that are on Spurs books that have no right to be there. And there's so many, like Davinson Sanchez, he shouldn't be there. Eric Dyer shouldn't be there. Højbjerg, even though he's a newer signing, he should be on his way out. Lloris has been a great servant for them for 10 years. He needs to be gone. Ben Davies is not good enough. So there's a few players, like, you have to let them go. You have to sell them or release them. Do whatever you do. I know Arsenal were getting cussed for buying players at their contract, but it got rid of the dead weight. And as a result, we're moving in a direction that's more positive. So
it definitely did, Ed. And you make a good point. But to counter that though, it's less than 12 months ago that they got the top 4. They qualified for top 4.
Right.
And they said that their squad was good enough for the Champions League. And then they had the best transfer summer. Everybody was drooling at Spurs. Oh my God, look at our summer as well. Richarlison and Basuma added to what has been done before. Now, the season doesn't go your way. And then all of a sudden, we should have got rid of these players from before. I didn't hear any of that when they qualified for the Champions League.
How many times, and this is not the Arsenal show, even though there's 3 Arsenal supporters on there, but how many times, especially during the dark days of Wenger, did top 4 mask the deficiencies of the club? Players not fit for purpose. You get top 4, it's a bittersweet ending at the end of the season. You're happy because you're going to be in Champions League next year. But how many players weren't good enough? So I think that's what it is. It's that top 4 probably masked a lot of deficiencies. And I can admit this. I fell into the trap with Spurs. I thought they were really going to kick on because they had Conte. Then I saw them be a bit assertive in the market, get players that I thought, okay, cool, this is good. I wanted Basuma in the
looked
summer.
good at the time.
They got Basuma. I'm not a Richarlison fan at all, but I thought, you spent 60 million on him. There's no reason why he shouldn't have scored at least one league goal since August. Do you know what I mean? He hasn't scored a league goal this entire season. It's pathetic. Bad. But you can't say he's a particularly bad player. The Richarlison that plays for Brazil, it's night and day. He's Brazil's number 9. He plays like a number 9 for them. For Spurs, you can't hit a barn door. He just looks like he's totally disinterested. He's always focusing on the wrong things. He wants to fight opposition players and get involved in that sort of battle when, bro, score goals. That's what you're paid to do, right? But when you look at it, there's a lot of players that shouldn't be there. A lot of players that have woefully underperformed as well. How many times have you hear from Spurs fans that Coutinho Romero is one of the best centre-backs in the league? He might be top 3, top 5, whatever you want to rank him. And he's been woeful. I think he's been bad. Every time I watch him play, he's doing something wrong, He's getting driven past by a player. He's, too rash. Can't defend. He's just giving the ball away in dangerous areas and then getting hit on a break. And all we heard, especially this season and the season before, that, he's top 6, he's top this, he's da-da-da-da-da. He might leave for Real Madrid. I don't know, man. It's a bit squeaky over there.
No, exactly. And we're going to end with Colleen because I think you're probably the right person to give Spurs supporters some hope. Because I'm looking, they're currently sitting 5th. So the Champions League qualification is not actually mathematically out. They're 6 points off Manchester United and Newcastle. Obviously, Man United have got 2 games in hand. Newcastle have got 1 game in hand. Just looking at the Spurs fixtures, Colleen, very, very tough. I mean, obviously losing 6-1. And then, on Thursday, they take on Manchester United at, White Hart Lane. So I know you're getting thumped 6-1 and you're thinking, okay, Man United now, they're probably on an up now. I know they got spanked in Sevilla, but look, to get into an FA Cup final, that's obviously going to, rejuvenate the squad again. But it is kind of in their hands. I know it's a tough game, but can you imagine if they do beat Manchester United, they can probably claw that back. The only problem is after that, they go to Anfield on the Sunday as well. So, and then they've got,
that's tough.
Crystal Palace. It's very, very tough. Colleen, do you think they've got a slight chance of getting this top 4? Because if they do get a result against Manchester United, which doesn't seem likely at the moment, they can probably get themselves back in there.
I mean, they have as long as mathematically they have a chance, they have a chance. Because as we know, football can change very, very, very quickly.
Manchester United.
Just look at all it takes is one result, and next thing you know, if one result goes your way and you win your game, next thing you know, things are looking much rosier. And it's not like they don't have the players, to actually compete for the top 4. I just think this time around, though, Tottenham are in a stage as a club where they need to decide who they're going to be. They need to decide culturally, are they going to change this culture mentally and really shift that over and become a culture that cultivates winners and people who don't give up? Or are they going to be the club that a lot of people over 35 will remember, picks up the odd trophy every 10 years, might finish 8th, but, they played good football. They're kind of in the middle here. And do you expect me to believe that if you look at Man United, their manager, Newcastle and their manager, and even if you want to throw Liverpool and Brighton into the mix and their manager and players, do I really believe after now on their technically 3rd head coach of this season, with 6 games to go, are going to be able to rally themselves and be like, okay, let's get a result and then let's get this top 4? I think this season, it might be a step too far for them. Yeah. And then they're going to have to really assess. So there's always a chance. Like I said, things change really quickly in football, but I think this time it's not going to be one of those football fairy tale moments for them.
Yeah, it's going to be. Listen, it's going to be very tough for them. They obviously are going to host Manchester United on the Thursday, and then they go to Anfield. So it's going to be really, really, really tough. Tottenham Hotspur on that. Right now, let's just talk about the team who actually put the gauntlet out for Tottenham Hotspur, beating them or thrashing them 6-1 at St James's Park, is Newcastle United. I know, I mean, we're going to put Eddie Howe to the side for 1 second because someone is, you know, I mean, looking a bit nervous. Because, you know, if anybody does listen to our Saturday live show on the Beat London, there's someone here who I know has changed her view. Oh, did I give it away? Changed her view on Eddie Howe. But I think right now it's peak for. I think Khaleen's going to lose this one because Khaleen is very good. Look, she makes a decision, she goes with it, and usually she's actually right. You're like, damn, how did you get this one? But I think this one she knows she's gonna have to catch out on this one.
This one's bad, man.
This one is bad. But Ed, we'll start with you. I'll let Khaleen compose her answer because she's gonna have to cover her tracks here. I'll let her scribble down her excuses in a second while we speak. But Ed, we've got to start with you. There's certain teams that make statement, you know, wins and get statement results where they're like, listen, we are here now and we're here to be taken seriously. And I think there's two results for me with Newcastle where I thought, okay, these guys do mean business. One was actually against Manchester United. They came to St James's Park and it was a relatively easy game because I thought, okay, these are kind of like your top four rivals. Obviously, you can't match City, you can't match Arsenal in terms of the title race, but you're fighting for this top four. And they dispatched of them. But what they did to their other rivals, Spurs, on that Sunday was it almost looked so easy. You know, if you looked at that scoreline, if you took that scoreline and went around anywhere in the world and you said, look, we're going to blank out the teams, we're just going to say, you know, 6-1, you would usually think, oh, that has to be Man City. Because Man City scores 6. I mean, when you look at 6-1 scoreline, you don't think, oh, okay, who else could do that? You look at Manchester City, but Newcastle, they tore them. That's probably one of the most devastating first halves I've seen in Premier League history. One of them. Are they really here? Is this statement to say, listen, guys, whether we make top four or not, we're really here and we're serious about getting into this Champions League?
I think so, because you don't do what they did to Spurs inside 20 minutes and not mean business. Because let's have it right. They scored 5 in 20 minutes. 20, let that sink in, 20 minutes. You know, that's that. You'll be happy with 5 at the end of the game. Do you know what I mean? Let alone 20.
I'll be happy with 5 over 2 games, bro. That's what I'll be happy with.
You see it, 20 minutes though. And it was just like they cut through them like knife through butter. It was just so easy. Like Spurs were a shambles, but don't take away from what Newcastle did and how they've turned St. James into a fortress. I think every team worth their salt, is going to be worried about going to their ground in the next couple of years because they're serious. They're serious. That Isak, he looks a player. You know, he scored 10 and 15 and he's been injured 3 or 4 times this season. You got firepower off the bench with Callum Wilson. Those two can rotate for the starting 9 spot. Joe Willock looks like a player revived under Eddie Howe. Bruno Guimaraes, he belongs in the Arsenal shirt. I make no bones about that one. You know, their defense is pretty watertight at home. You can catch them
even Joe Linton.
Joe Linton looks revived. You know, and then the scary thing is they're not even doing the thing that nouveau riche teams do, which is just buy anybody willy-nilly, overpriced players. They're buying methodically, they're thinking, you know, and that's why it's scary because I don't think they made a statement signing outside of Isak. I really don't think that. So now they can go and get the middle team's best player. So I won't be surprised if they go and buy Maddison. You know, slap around 80 million for Maddison or however much he's going to cost. They can get him and they can track that sort of middle ground player and then build that way. I think it's good times for Newcastle fans, I believe. I think it's scary for other teams battling for that top 4 spot.
Yeah. And listen, I agree with you on that. I think it is one thing the club getting money, but it's about making the right signings. And I think sometimes, or not sometimes, once you finish in a high position and you get into a Champions League, it becomes a lot easier to attract certain players because they're thinking now this club is serious. And I had 1 or 2 Spurs fans, you know, suggesting that it'll be a good thing if they drop out of the top 4 or the Champions League. That I think is the riskiest business or thought to have because maybe the fact that they've qualified for the Champions League in these last 7 years, that maybe that is true arrogance. Because if you think that you're going to automatically take a break out and rebuild, when have Spurs ever rebuilt and you haven't really challenged for anything? That's not going to happen. Chelsea will be back next season because they'll have their coach, which could be the one that all of you are praying for. That's Poch. It looks like he's close. So he'll be there. He's not going to come there and want to finish 12th. Liverpool will sign 1 or 2 midfield players. They'll be back. Manchester United are going to sign again. They might actually take Harry Kane. And Newcastle might even be in the top 4 and finish in the top 4 with all of their money. So it is definitely scary. But we are talking about Newcastle money. I think we need to talk about their coach because, and they're going to come to Colleen next. And listen, I'm going to be very quiet in this one. But yeah, I'm going to let her do all of the talking. But
let me kick back.
Literally, same here, Ed. I'm going to really listen to this one. But you look at what's going on with Chelsea. It's not just about having one of the richest club and spending 500, 600 million on players. You've seen that doesn't work. You have to have a very, very good coach. And I'm looking at players like Joe Linton. You said that he's back on form. He was never on form. He came in and was literally, treading water. He was. Joe Willock, of course. We were like, oh, wow, Newcastle, you're going to take him. We'll get Odegaard. Callum Wilson now is someone that you can rely on. I mean, the back 4. Colleen, I think we have to firstly apologise for your comments about Eddie Howe because this is a top 4 manager here.
Okay, let's get it
currently.
Right. Let's get it right. Firstly, let me just address the comment that you made earlier, Ed, that I do think that it was a wonderful performance. 6-1's insane, but I would like to put a pin in. Would just like to put a pin in and say, United have been beaten very badly this season, losing 7-0 to Liverpool away from home, and they're probably still going to finish above them with a couple of trophies in their pocket. So that's all I'm going to say, just to add a little bit of context to the 6-1 to Tottenham. That's what I'm going to say.
What's that got to do with the price of milk, man? Give Eddie Howe his flowers. I think Liverpool and United.
I just wanted to make that point to what you said, just to broaden context. As I said before, football is a funny game. Yeah. I think I even thought this the back end of last season. I did think, as soon as those new owners came in, you've got a group of players here who generally, outside of the last 18 months, apart from some of their new acquisitions, you probably wouldn't look at a lot of them twice. And you can now have this new owner coming in who's probably going to who has the capabilities to blow people out the water. And you've got a group of players there thinking, I need to step up because I want to be a part of this party. And I think that's also, psychologically, with the players that's also come in. Eddie Howe has done a really good job. Oh, we got there in the end then. I was thinking, what is going on there? Eddie Howe has done a good job to keep that on them, because there's one thing thinking, okay, I don't want to be the next one out the door. I want to be part of this party. I want to see where Newcastle goes. I want to really fight for my contracts because I know that there's a million better players out there than me, quite literally. But the way he's got them playing, and the way, I think the biggest thing is the mentality, because don't get me wrong, Newcastle's a massive club. Massive club. And anyone who's probably over the age of 20, 25 will even know that. And over the years they've had some hard times, particular owners and whatnot. And a lot of these players especially the English ones, they will remember Newcastle like that. And I think they've just kind of tapped into that kind of source, being like, you've already got the backing of this crowd, win, lose or draw, they're going to be there for you. And I think Eddie Howe's really done a really good job of galvanizing the crowd factor, a good job around what the owner's expectations will be, because also he wants to be along for this ride as well, make a name for himself and potentially stay there or go on to a bigger club or whatever the case may be. But the way he's changed, and the position for Joe Linton, for example, that we brought up, and almost giving him a new lease of life. Several players in there like Wilson, some of their defense I wouldn't even pick out for a 15th place team, and they've really turned them into definitely top 6 playing side. And it's just now the question is what they do in the summer and how they continue on this role, because as you said, they've not gone out crazy and gone, let me get this star, this star, this star. So I'm curious to see how they're going to do it. But big praise to Eddie Howe.
Oh, we got there in the end, Colleen.
I still, I still have my reservations on the guy. I'm not gonna lie to you. I still do, but he's done good. He's done good, but I still wouldn't want him at my club. Put it that way.
He has done good. Now, well, you know what? We did get there in the end. I think Ed actually, because he was waiting for so long, and you were making some fair points, but you just didn't say what you wanted to say. He went to sleep, he blocked off his screen, and then he came back right at the end when you said, "I've got to give credit to Eddie Howe." But no, he has done a fantastic job. But guys, and Colleen, you have made a good few points and good ones. This is why you're on the show. But you're right. One result or a couple of results can change everything. Right now, they're currently sitting third, which is ridiculous. They're leveling points with Manchester United, but Man United do have a game in hand. But they've answered all the questions there. The only thing with Newcastle is going to be a bit tough for them. I am looking at their running. They have got Arsenal to come there. So this is what I'm saying with Spurs. If they do beat, it's going to be tough because they're going to go to Anfield. But if they do beat Manchester United, then Newcastle have got. I'm just looking at their fixtures now. Well, on Thursday they have Everton away. They're fighting for their lives now. So
not fighting very well, but yeah,
they're not fighting very. No, you're right, and especially, Sean Dyche. I would hate for Sean Dyche to go down. Jeez, I wouldn't know if I can. I can stomach this anymore. But then they face Southampton, which, again, I'm about to say, I reckon they should take on Southampton. But look, you've seen what's happened at the Emirates when they've come to town, so they're still fighting. But this is the big one on that Sunday, the 7th of May, when they take on Arsenal, because Arsenal they are still going to be in the title race, and everybody's looking at that fixture. Oh, this is a big one. If Arsenal do get a result against Manchester City, then they are going to be looking at that one thinking, that's another tough test. But it's not easy for Newcastle.
To be fair.
Yeah, and that's not going to happen. So they're away at Leeds and then Brighton, and then obviously they've got Leicester City, and they do end at Stamford Bridge, Newcastle. So it could all change. It could all go down to the final, but we do need to pick them up straight away. Now, I did allude to Manchester City because we've got a huge game. This has been probably from early on in the season. Arsenal have kind of set the pace, second youngest team in the Premier League, and sitting at the top of the league for just so long. But Manchester City have always been the team that everybody wants to have that success, to play that way. They've always looked at, Pep being the master and Arteta being the apprentice. Maybe one or two Arsenal fans got a little bit carried away with certain comments, and we're saying this when people are breathing down your neck, but when people are far away, you can shout out whatever you can and say, "Yeah, man, bun you, man, isn't it? Like, I'm not even worried about you." But then when the guy's standing next to you and they say, "Oh, what did you say, my bro?" Boy, what I mean? The voice has gone funny, but let's make no bones about it. This is the biggest game of the season. Potentially, this could be the title decider. There's still a lot of games left to play. There's still games in hand. There could be twist and turn. Ed, is this the title decider?
I think so. Unfortunately, our past 2 games have made it more important than it needed to be. It was always going to be important. You go to the home of the champions and you lay on a marker, usually, especially at this season, usually that means business. I just think we as Arsenal fans and Arsenal as a club, they have to look at themselves and think, if you want to be champions, you have to go there and win, or at least come out with a draw at the very least. But if you get beaten, I think it's over. It's not mathematically over, but I just think the way we've been playing, the heads will drop. I know we've always been able to bounce back after a defeat, but I think the manner of a defeat by the champions, if it happens, I don't know where our players' heads will be at. I don't know if they've got the mettle and the fortitude in them to kick on and try and finish the season strongly, man. But I'm praying with all of my strength that we go there and give a good account of ourselves and we can actually win. Because outside of it being a title decider, we haven't won there since 2015. So we have to start winning there. Every team has gone there and won, but we're the only team that hasn't got a positive result in 8 years. So outside of it being, you know, like I said before, a title decider or whatever, you have to go there and win. And we've been very good in the mini top 6 league. We had some good results this year. So why not, you know, why not go to City and show them that, listen, we can have you lot. Come on, let's go.
Exactly. Colleen, we are looking at the form from last season, and what I mean by that is I think it was 3 games on the bounce Arsenal lost. It was all doom and gloom. It did end in, you know, finishing 5th, but and then we had a trip to Chelsea away at Stamford Bridge, and nobody looked at that game and thought we're going to get a result, because we're not getting a result against Brighton, you know, Southampton, and then Arsenal pulled it out the bag. They are the club historically that have gone to these big places, and when everybody said, they're not going to get a result, they have got a result. But do you believe, Ed believes that this is a title decider? Do you believe this game is the title decider, or do you think like others do that, look, even if it ends in a draw, it's not really over? There's a lot of twists and turns. You know, we don't believe. What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, even if, don't get me wrong, ideal scenario, we win at the Etihad, because we've made life a little bit less uncomfortable for ourselves. And maybe that's a bit of PTSD from the fans, you know, maybe because it's actually 10 games unbeaten for the boys. And I know you've seen them after matches, you know, they're disappointed, especially that Southampton one. But I'm a bit undecided on it because, for example, as we've spoke about before, Leicester, when they won the league, they didn't beat the runners-up back to back they didn't beat up Arsenal home or away that season, but still managed to win the league.
We did the double. Yeah, we did the double over them. Yeah.
So I don't just point, and I know it doesn't happen that often. I don't think we'd be out of it. We're not out of it because I'm looking at City, and I know they've got a lot of squad depth, but they're trying to do not a treble, the treble. And their main focus is always going to be the Champions League, for sure, just because of the context of Pep, City, and the whole narrative of it. But they have a very, very good squad depth. So I don't think it's out. The only thing I'm worried about is what Ed said is, would the boys' heads drop? Well, like I need to see something, but there's still a lot of games to play, and I still feel like there's some points there to be dropped between both Arsenal and City. I do think Arsenal can get a result. I think Arsenal probably do need to win, just because I'm not sure what mental state the boys are in, because I'm not there behind. You know, I'm not at London Colney. All I'm seeing is 3 draws in a row. But then if you look at the wider context, like I said, that's 10 games unbeaten. So it depends on how
7 wins and 3. Yeah.
So it just depends on how you're looking at it. But yeah, you're right. We've not won there since 2015. And when people least expect Arsenal to beat a big boy, we tend to beat a big boy. And Arsenal notoriously, maybe barring the invincible season, generally in the last 30, 40, 50 years, if Arsenal want to win a trophy, it doesn't matter what trophy it is, whether it's the Prem, Cup Winners' Cup, or the FA Cup, we always do things the hard way. Even to break our trophy drought against Hull in the FA Cup, when we won the league at Anfield in the last minute, having to get 2 goals in 89. Like, Arsenal do things the hard way. And this is what I'd kind of be championing to the boys. But I don't think it's, to answer your question, I don't think it's going to be over. But it will just really depend on where their mentality's at. But I think you have to leave there with a result just to galvanise, because then even if we left a draw, it's still in City's hands still, I think, by a point. But like I said, City are going for the treble. Are they going to win every single game in the Prem?
That's the thing.
Maybe.
That's
You've got to give yourself control of your own destiny. So we need to regain that control.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think you know, by Arsenal going there to get the win, I think is going to be the best result you can ask for. But you know, Jamie Carragher has said that getting a draw maybe is not too bad. I'm just looking at both of the teams, and with City, I don't think they have to be, because of their squad depth and because of their experience, I don't think they have to be at their ultimate best at the Etihad. I think they've got a lot going their way there. I mean, they've got the better squad, as you know. The fact that what is infectious is when you win, and they're winning big games. You know, they're in the FA Cup final. They've dispatched of Bayern Munich, so they're into the semi-final. They've got Real Madrid. Like, no matter what you say about having games where, you know, you might be getting tired, for a footballer, I can only imagine, like, these days is what you're going to forever remember. Gary Neville said it many times, said they were knackered during that 99 season, but they were on for the treble. Like, you are just going to get game ready. Can you imagine? So for their players, they're thinking, we're on the cusp, because as Arsenal fans, we should understand when 2004, the league was wrapped up and we were still unbeaten. Them guys were still thinking, you can make history here, so you better get up for that next game. Like, that's what your motivation is. Now, we from the outside of London are looking in thinking, hopefully they'll take their eye off the ball. I'm telling you now, Manchester City fans, yes, we always tease Man United fans that they're everywhere but in Manchester. But Manchester City fans, the majority of them are from Manchester. They have gone through the dark days watching Manchester United win league after league, FA Cup, and winning the treble. Do you know how low you would have felt in '99 as a Manchester City fan? Now, you're taking their Premier League titles like sweets in the playground. Now, you're literally just pinching them from them all the time. You're guaranteed to finish above them. And you have the chance to finally be able to look up to, players like Roy Keane, Rio Ferdinand, and say, and what? We've done the treble as well. I don't think you understand how important it is for them. I actually think them winning the league, I know people say is more important for Arsenal, and I get that as an Arsenal fan, we're going to be biased, but check it for City to win the treble. For them, with what's happened in their backyard, like, that's their enemy, like Manchester United are always going to be the pinnacle. You guys could never do the treble. So I kind of feel that they are in all of them competitions, but they're going to probably be just as hungry as Arsenal. Now, let's take a look at the players now. I think the injuries, we're looking at Ake. Now, I was the one to say, I think Ake is probably going to be the weak link. Bayern Munich at home, I was like, all right, Naber, you need to really rethink this, because I can't see any weak link there. Obviously, Gomez played on Saturday there. So that's one injury that we know of. But the Saliba injury, Ed, how significant is this? Because Rob Holding has come under criticism, but it just looks like we're just conceding too many goals without this guy. And he's not going to be fit for the Manchester City game. And it looks like he'll be out for the Chelsea game as well. How big a blow is that, especially going to the Etihad?
It's a massive loss. I read a stat that without Saliba, our win percentage drops down to 40%. With him in the squad is 77%. So on that reading alone, doesn't look good. I think what people are conflating, though, and it's a bit unfair on Holding, I've been a big critic of him, is we're conflating the individual mistakes, the uncharacteristic mistakes that have been made from certain players, and we're just saying, because Holding's in the team, that's why Partey's playing like he's drunk. That's why Odegaard hasn't been as good as he's, that's why Odegaard hasn't been great. That's why Saka missed the penalty, and it's not fair, He's a backup. I think Colleen said it as well. Colleen said, what do you expect from a backup? He's a backup for a reason. He's not good enough to start. So when he comes in, it's his job to do a job. And it's the manager's job, Arteta, to mitigate his shortcomings, right? So I think we need to make better decisions and better, in-game decisions to mitigate his shortcomings, right? Tactically, structurally, do those things and take care of business that way. I do miss Saliba, we all do. But I think we can't risk him. It's a back injury. They're saying there's something wrong with his back structurally. So we can't risk him, because it's a situation where if he breaks down, he might be out for a lot longer, or he might even risk his career. He needs your back to walk, man. We know this. The back is no joke. So forget playing football. He needs his back for the rest of his life. So we have to look at it that way. It's a massive loss. All of us are, without being dramatic, heartbroken, because we know that with him in the squad, we're a better chance of winning.
But we did go to the Etihad with Holding before. This season, in fact. And I wouldn't have put him down for the reason we lost that game. And I know it's a different context, different competition. But
You're right, but I just think with City and the run-up, and they've been here before, Haaland's on course to break 50 goals. He might even smash 60 if he's not careful. So it's a situation where, can you imagine Haaland versus Holding? I think that's what's going to happen. They're going to attack Holding all the time.
Holding's going to either have to get tight like he did before, get a yellow, and then get shifted. There's three options. He gets tight like he did before, and then hopes not to get spun, or concede a foul to get a yellow and need to be replaced, because there's no Saliba to replace him this time. you don't include Holding altogether. You shift Ben White back in, put Partey at right back, which he's played there many times for Atletico and did in a game not too long ago for Arsenal. I can't remember the game. Or Rob Holding has the game of his life, and we have to adjust the way we're playing for him. And I'm not, as Ed said, I don't think he's the reason why we've drew 3 games in a row. But then if you look at some, not all of them, some of the goals we've conceded, you know, he just doesn't have that athleticism to hold the line. He's like a million miles back. And I think we all know what I'm pointing to. He doesn't have, you know, he's not the modern centre back that we're used to now seeing. He's just not. He's about 5 years behind, I'd say, where we are with centre backs. So you have 3 options. You leave him out altogether. He has the game of his life, and this is where Arteta earns his millions, and this is where Holding also earns his millions, and the rest of the squad, where we accommodate for him. Like if we go man to man again, like we did with City before, which Pep didn't expect, or we take him out altogether, put Ben White back in his natural position, put Thomas Partey at right back, because Lord knows he ain't doing a job at the minute in midfield, and bring in Jorginho. But then again, do you want to be tinkering too much? So you have 3 options. So
and I think I mean, Ed, we did mention, and luckily I think it's well put, and you're not the only one to suggest, you know, Partey going.
I don't know if I like
back.
it. I don't know if I like it for the Etihad, but it's one of the 3 options. So you pick one of the 3.
There is going to be options. Yeah, no, you know, and that's fair to say. We're all going to be looking at it. When you draw 3 of your last games, you know, when you're in the title race, you're going to try to think, should we change something? I think my main concern is the individual mistakes. That's what I'm concerned with, because I just feel that if we have any more of those bozo moments, you know, we've been punished from Southampton and West Ham. So Lord knows what City will do with that. And I think they'll be watching videos of the mistakes and thinking, okay, how can we actually make sure that they keep making these? And that's my only fear is, and that's why I'm so frustrated over the last 2 games, is it's the individual mistakes which have cost us. Because if they didn't happen and everybody kept their heads, that wouldn't be the case. If Arsenal, well, it looks like Manchester City are the favourites. I think you're going to be watching that game as an Arsenal fan, knowing that there is a million memes which is going to be already saved in people's phones. Like, I don't believe the neutral is going to be, you know, the neutral might be hoping Arsenal do it. Maybe the media TV companies may, because obviously the title race will go further. But the rival fans, Spurs fans right now, or Man United fans from London, you know, especially Spurs fans, they're not having a good time. So the rest of the season hangs on, I believe, what happens. And this game at the Etihad, do you kind of feel the pressure as a fan, Khalid?
A little bit, but I've tried to distance myself from that, because I feel like a lot of fans have felt like that, and purely because it's been so long. We've had many a false dawn, and we haven't gone in. We're not going into this game with, you know, winning 3 on the bounce, you know, considering, you know, the changes in the squad. So I am a little bit nervous, but I don't know whether it might be just arrogance. I don't know. I think this squad has got us to where we are, and the 2 I know, don't get me wrong, I know we lost to City twice this season, and we've had different personnel and different changes in that. We've never faced them with a strong, our first, probably strongest XI, and it looks like that's probably not going to be the case unless there's lies coming out of London Colney and Ornstein. But I still think we raised our game for that, both home and away, and I really think they will. So I'm not nervous. It's more, even if we lose, like I said, I still think there's still more twists to come. But I'm just more concerned around where the boys' mental's at, because we don't know. But you know, you can understand why. We're all desperate to win a league, and after 19 years, and the longer you leave it, the harder it is, and the more pressure it is. And now it seems like the boys are starting to feel that pressure. If it's me, Arteta, not only Arteta needs to talk to him, bring in bring in Thierry, I know they had Sol Campbell in the other day, but someone needs to get through to them and get their mental right, because if we were to mess up this season, we're going to have this exact same conversation next season, the season after, until we do it, and it just adds to the pressure. So I'm trying to not put the pressure on. I'm trying to just trust where they've got us.
Yeah, I think that's a safe bet. Ed, I want you on both teams. I want you to tell me the match winners, where the game will be won. Manchester City, who's the danger man? I mean, this is a question where you're probably going to list 7 players, but and then we'll move on to Arsenal. Who's the match winners for them?
The 2 danger
No,
men
more,
for City
more.
are obviously Haaland and KDB. For some reason, KDB could be in woeful form, and I use those air quotes because when is he ever in woeful form? Really, he will just rise it against us. You know, the assist. He usually scores against us as well. He's got a decent scoring record against us. Haaland, obviously, he's on course to break a long-standing record, most goals in a 38-game season. So I think he's going to want to lay down a marker as well. He's answered every question possibly thrown at him this season. He's been a revelation. So those are the 2 obvious ones. I think Grealish will have a good game as well. He had a really good game against us at our ground, you know. So I think he's going to be another one to look out for. For us, our 2 danger men are going to be from the wide men, so Saka and Martinelli. I think they've led the charge admirably. They're the only ones that haven't let their heads drop. Even if their levels dropped, their heads hasn't dropped. And they're not the ones making uncharacteristic mistakes. Yes, we know Saka missed a penalty, but
that is what,
that happens, man. And listen, I know people are saying, "Oh, he's only young when he makes a mistake." That's the truth, you know. For him to have carried us on his back for so long, come on, man. He's allowed a blip. Did it come at the wrong time? Of course, inopportune time to miss a penalty. Not even hit the target, skied it wide. Happens. Martinelli's been a revelation this year, so I think those 2, if they play their game, they'll get some change out of the left and right back for City. So I think those 2, we have to make sure that Thomas Partey isn't drunk. I know I'm making jokes, but you can't make a mistake, man. You can't be too sloppy with the ball. You can't be, careless.
I'm tempted to drop him. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm very tempted.
For Jorginho?
I like Jorginho. Sorry, I do. I know defensively not as good as Thomas, but if Thomas is going to be playing the way he's been playing the last 3 games,
I don't know, man.
It's such a tight, and this is the thing, guys. This is why I said that. Who do you reckon is going to be sort of like the danger man here? I'm looking at that midfield as well, and I kind of feel that's where the game will be won. I'm looking at Partey and then Rodri. I think Rodri. There's been conversations about Casemiro, Partey, Caicedo, as Ed knows. That's my guy. That's one of my favorite players of the season, but. Rodri, for me, just seems like he's, on another level. Not a major level, but he kind of like the guy. He's filled out now. I was watching the Bayern Munich game. I was looking at his neck. I thought this ain't the same Rodri that came from Atletico now. So he's got more strength in there. He's not just the gangly Busquets sort of DM now. He literally can go toe for toe. But it's technically what he does as well. His decision making. Even the goal against Bayern Munich, not even strikers in the Premier League would have that much composure. He's not even left-footed. He brought it onto his left. He didn't even look up and he curled it top corner. So that midfield, especially in the middle there, Partey, is he going to bring Xhaka back? Of course, I think we all know Vieira's not going to start. The question is what's happening with Smith Rowe. He could have played the 8. Trossard came in actually against Southampton. He looked good. He's struggling to even start a game. So there's some big calls for Mikel. I mean, Khalil, and we'll go back to Ed. Where do you think that midfield is going to be? Do you think it's going to be the standard midfield of Xhaka, Partey and Odegaard? Or do you think he's going to switch it up? Are we going to get kind of, a shock? Or you reckon it's going to be the normal team?
It'll be Xhaka, Partey and Odegaard because I guess he's trusted them this far. He can rely on them despite us talking now about especially Thomas Partey's poor form, and it's just come at the wrong time because Odegaard's had like a couple of games of off form, not too many to be fair. Xhaka's had 1 or 2 games where he's been on the bounce where he's not been great, so this is Thomas Partey's time, so hopefully he raises his game at the Etihad. But I personally think we're forgetting 2 very big factors here in the Arsenal squad: Zinchenko and Gabriel Jesus. They were booted out of the champion-winning side to come to Arsenal, and they both said that they came straight in saying, we're going to win this league. They both have said, they've both got that mentality. Zinchenko has the best win percentage of any Premier League player ever. I genuinely think they're going to be coming to the Etihad with a point to prove. Not that they don't go into every game with a, carrying their, their legacy and how good they've been, especially during their time in the Premier League. But I think they're going to really relish this opportunity to come back to the Etihad in front of fans that just a year ago were their own, and prove to them that this is, they know their worth, and they're going to show it to you by pinching the title off of you. And I really think Jesus will be on it for sure, especially with Pep.
Yeah, very, very interesting, Killian, because I think out of the two, I think Jesus will probably be having a couple of sleepless nights, only because obviously it's been labelled at him that he didn't score enough goals. He didn't play as a centre forward at City. I hear a lot of criticism, and rightfully so. He could possibly be improving on his finishing, but I think for Arsenal, he's been a revelation for us, and he's definitely one of the reasons why we are here with his mentality and just the way he plays. However, I think it's a bit disingenuous, when how they speak about, Pep got rid of him because Haaland was going to come. Maybe so, but since Pep has been there, Jesus has played how many seasons under Pep? You can't be a bad player and play that much or that many seasons. I'm looking at that squad now. I'm thinking whoever's in that Man City team now that gets or leaves in the summer, I'm sorry, that's a top player. And if they go to any other Premier League team, they're improving.
Barring Calvin Phillips, but anyway.
Well, do you know what? It's unfortunate. Maybe that's one transfer too many because you just can't get him. And I know Gundogan may be leaving, but yeah, I mean that's one that you could probably question. He hasn't been there long enough. But when you look at the rest of them, and to play under Pep for so long, I can imagine he would really want to make a statement. He missed 3 good opportunities. I know Ed was the first to point them out. But I guess
I've left him alone, man. I'm not even on this case. But it's just, every time he misses.
Yeah, we see that silly face. But anyway, let's remain professional on this podcast. But the thing is, I'm agree with you, Khalid. He's definitely going to have something to prove. Ed, Zinchenko, and Gabriel Jesus. Khalid has made a very good point. They're definitely going to have something to prove on that one. Do you reckon they'll add to that game, or do you reckon it might be a bit too much for them?
I hope they add to the game in a smart way. Play the game and not the occasion. So don't think of it as it's your turn. You've got to be very clinical, very calm and serene almost, We know what it means to go back home after, being discarded in air quotes or whatever. But yeah, you can't play the occasion, man. Just go there, play a smart 90 minutes plus change, and hopefully leave with a W, man. That's all I ask for. So I know, you want to show the passion to the fans, but if things are going wrong on the pitch, I don't want to see, the huddle and that. Like, just play the game, man. Don't worry about the huddle, because as much as, you want to show the fans that you're trying to get it right by doing right. You know what I mean? Don't worry about all that huddle.
They have been, to be fair. I know people find the huddles cringe, but we're still top of the league, and they've obviously been working.
I know, and you're right, but okay, let's flip it back to the Southampton game.
And what?
We didn't win. Yeah, we drew, but
10 games.
How long did it take for us to get the 2 goals, man? When it was too late. So I get it. I'm not in favor of the huddle. I just think if it's going wrong, just knuckle down. All this, let's talk and fight, and anybody can do that, man. You know what I mean?
Right. Okay.
We do not let this slip.
And then what happened? You slip, bruv. Come on, man.
Yeah. No. Right, guys. Score predictions. Colleen. Because you are really sassy on the Saturday.
1-0 Arsenal. I know you're probably thinking I'm crazy about keeping Man City out. I don't see it being a 2-1. I see it being a very, very hard and defensive performance. I think we're going to go back to when we beat them back in the FA Cup. I'm not saying we're going to go 3 or 5 at the back sort of thing, but I think it's going to be that type-esque where I think we're probably going to change a bit, because I think Arteta's ego won't take him losing to Pep 3 times in one season. So I reckon somehow, some way, 1-0 Arsenal. And that's kind of 50% thinking, 50% hope.
Yeah. Okay, 1-0. Ed, have we still got you?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yep. Right. Just to end it.
Predictions. I don't even know, It's one of those ones where you can go either way. for my history and how I usually say the prediction when I don't know, I'm gonna go score draw. So 1-1, hopefully. Yeah, I can't call it, man.
Khalid loves it. Khalid loves
Yeah,
it.
I don't want to because listen. I'm never gonna say we're gonna get battered. God forbid. But I don't know if we have it in us to win. We need to win. I just don't know, man. I just think, just God. That's what I'm saying, man.
Wow.
That's
Well,
what I'm saying.
listen. We will be back on a Saturday to look at the score predictions to see
No,
what happens.
Hey, I was gonna say, hey,
Yeah, you
calm
can't
down.
I thought I was gonna, I actually
No.
thought I was gonna get away with it.
What's your score prediction, bro?
I'm going 2-1 Arsenal.
Amen.
I think it's going
Come on,
to.
boys.
Come on.
I think it, and do you know what, guys? This is a podcast, so if we do get boxed up, this is gonna get played back. But look, it's a prediction. Sometimes you get it right, sometimes you get it wrong. But guys, thank you so much. Colleen, thank you for making your debut here. Oh, actually, and Ed on the podcast, man. You two have been great as always. We will be on the Beat at London's YouTube page, so make sure that you do check out and follow. And the Offside Chat will be back on Saturday with that. Peace out. Thank you.
All right, guys.
Cool.